In order to appreciate the animation of today, we must take a trip back to a time where colors were bleak and characters were hand-drawn, the 90s. Jotaro vs Dio is one of the most infamous battles in the JoJo Bizarre Adventure franchise, and since the battle takes place in Cairo, Egypt, where the prominent language is Arabic, that's what the news reporter is speaking in. Usually in anime they talk in Japanese no matter where they are in the world. However, this little inclusion is what makes the scene so special because it culturally fits the location and thereby maximizing the immersion. As the scene is slowly zooming out, it's showing us where the broadcast is being played from. It's being played from a TV set on a store display. You can hear the sounds of cars passing by and conversations that the people are having in the background. This generic ambience is what makes any scene seem more full, and as the camera pulls back, the TV gets more and more quieter. BAM! We hear the sound of glass breaking, diverting our attention to the battle at hand, and we can see the locals terrified at what's happening. Poles bending, cars being seemingly crushed out of nowhere. We're seeing Dio and JoJo from the perspective of non-stand users, the locals. In 3 shots, we're able to see that Dio is the one who has the upper hand. Jotaro's face was cut from the mere pressure of the world, the car being crushed in the background and the ground breaking resembles strength and dominance. Jotaro unleashed Star Platinum, and what's interesting about this is in the next shot, we can hear Star Platinum. However, the audio is panned to the right side of our headphones. This is what panning sounds like. This shows us that Dio and Jotaro are quite far from each other, and that we're hearing this from Dio's perspective. This is a part of sound design. It's using proximity in a realistic way and gives us perspective into the scene. I'm going to play this scene a few times. See if you can spot the difference. Listen carefully. The first one was the original unedited scene and the second one was altered by me. I just moved the audio of the 2 stands fighting to where Dio was talking. It seemed out of place to me, however opinions may vary on that. When Dio stopped time, the audio sounds tinny, like when a knight in armor walks. This lets us know when Dio stops time. It's sort of like an auditory cue of when it happens. Since sound is created by vibrations through the air, what happens when you stop that process? I can't research this further. All that does is lead me to frozen left 9 mysteries that Once Upon a Time needs to solve. That doesn't even make grammatically any sense. Just take my words lightly on this one. In the 2015 version of JoJo, Dio was launched onto a fine china store. Then out of nowhere he has knives with him. In continuity's sake, that doesn't make any sense, but it is JoJo. Common sense is thrown out of the hospital window. In this version, however, he's launched onto a meat shop. We can hear the hook rattling ever so slightly in the background along with a knife on Dio's back. Dio then teleports to a light pole looking down on Jotaro. Jotaro then proceeds to follow Dio with his eyes, insinuating he can move in Dio's frozen time even if it's for a moment. What this does is psychologically give Dio the edge. Since Jotaro doesn't know how to stop Dio, him being helpless in the situation can only listen to Dio's nonsensical rambling. Dio has a tendency to use metaphors to describe what's going on in excruciating detail, which is a trademark of his character. Casually leaning back, not worrying about a thing, is what makes Dio terrifying as an opponent. We then see Jotaro trying to find Dio, then the sign of him sitting casually in the car, continuing his monologue as if nothing happened and not worrying about what Jotaro is going to do. He then stands in the car and it cuts to a wide shot of the two, then to an extreme close-up of Dio once again looking down on Jotaro. What these sequence of shots tell us is that Dio has figured a way to kill Jotaro even if he can move in his frozen time. In the 2015 version, Dio stands the world through the knives at Jotaro. However, in this version, Dio himself throws the knives, and to be honest with you, I actually prefer this version since it feels more personal. Notice whenever time stops, music never plays. Unlike in the 2015 version where music can be heard almost for the entirety of the battle. Music is good to have to amp up the scene or situation, however, it should not be used as a way to keep the audience attention. That's just an over-dependence on music. Notice as Dio talks, he pauses, then his voice gets clearer and clearer. While the music is building up, I'm going to play the scene a few times so you can actually notice what I'm talking about as well. As time was about to resume, the music was slowly building up as well as Dio's voice was returning to normal. I personally love this scene because of those two aspects. As Jotaro is falling, we can hear the sound of the knives landing on the floor. Listen to it again. This level of sound design is what I love seeing in large scale productions or large scale battles because it's another way to immerse us into the world. It's so underlooked in some productions. This scene is when Dio checks to see if Jotaro died or not. In order to fake his death, he used Star Platinum to stop his heart. This scene lasts for 50 seconds and it's all silence. We humans need time to really have a feel for what's going on in a situation. No music, no dialogue, just pure, unadulterated silence. As Dio is ready to kill Jotaro, we get a wide shot of him swinging the sign. As he's swinging the sign, it cuts to a close-up. This is referred to as cutting on the action. It's a great way to transition to another shot without people noticing you went to another shot, since we're focusing on the motion of the sign and not the actual cut itself. In this version, pulling off was actually a lot more useful. If we never came to stop Dio, Jotaro would have definitely been dead. Jotaro's the one standing on top and now looking down on Dio, but the eerie music gets louder and louder as Dio maniacally laughs at Jotaro. Hinting at the car approaching them. Since Dio has heightened hearing, he could have heard the car approaching them. As Dio is escaping, we get a cutaway of the knives, which Jotaro threw. A cutaway simply refers to as an insert shot of something, i.e. the knives, and then it cuts back to the main shot, which is Dio latching himself onto the car. He then falls to the floor and he sees a hatch to the sewers. However, Jotaro steps on it, causing it to rattle. We can see it and hear it rattling. I'll play this scene a few times so you can actually notice what I'm talking about. After Dio sucked the blood of Joseph, he rips off his shirt. We get a medium shot of him holding the shirt, then it cuts to a close-up as the shirt is being torn off. It's cutting on the action. However, we can see some of Dio's head in the frame when the shirt is being torn off in the close-up. To me, this ruins the shot, so here's my remedy or fix to it. When Dio stopped time, music was still playing in the background. However, when Jotaro's immunity runs out, the music stops. The music was used to showcase that Jotaro could move longer in Dio's frozen time. However, when he couldn't, it stopped, just like how he stopped attacking Dio. It then switches to another track, a more action-paced track to fit the scene. Dio throws the boat at Jotaro and we get this smooth shot which has remnants of line art which just looks really cool. We then hear the sound of Jotaro falling onto the tram. The people in the tram are locals indicated by their clothing and the language they're speaking, which is Arabic. We then get a shot of Dio picking up a van and it rotates as he's picking it up. The shot is done in a one-er style, which is the shot continues and there are no cuts presented in the shot. It's basically done in one take. When Dio throws the other van and it's about to hit Jotaro, it cuts to a close-up shot of Star Platinum hitting it out of the way, and then it cuts to a wide shot of the van moving out of the way. This sequence of cuts flows well to the point where you won't notice the cuts for too long or even at all. Dio says he's done warming up and stops time. This time, the music stops playing to show Dio is serious about ending this. In this version, Dio uses an oil tanker instead of the infamous. We then hear the sound effect which indicates time has resumed. We can also tell by Star Platinum's voice returning to normal as well. The issue with these sequence of cuts, to me anyways, is Dio didn't immediately hammer down the tanker. Here's my remedy or fix to the scene. It then cuts to a bird's eye view of the explosion, sort of like a news helicopter flying over the scene. Extracting his victory, Dio laughs maniacally, and it cuts back and forth from the fire to him, since fire in this scene represents Dio's vile hatred towards humanity as well as showing how truly maniacally evil Dio is. However, it also represents Jotaro's burning ambition to kill Dio and bring him to justice. Jotaro looks down on Dio as the fire is burning to bring his burning ambition towards the foreground for everyone to see. This scene does several jump cuts between stand and user to show in fact that they are one and the same.